What's up, guys? What's happening? Hope you're doing well. Took my time to create this video about the debt ceiling and how is it so dangerous for our nation, where national debt is $31.3 trillion. So I took my time, kind of drew things out on my whiteboard step by step, give you the analysis, and why is this so important, crucial by July, and why we're gonna default, and what's the consequences. So yeah, this is very, very dangerous for our nation. Nobody's speaking about it. Social media is disconnected from it. They kind of, the sooner you get to this issue, the more people talk about it. You know how it is in the society. But I would like to warn viewers, subscribers that this issue is serious. People need to pay attention to it. So let me take you to my whiteboard, share the screen with you. So I drew this thing down for you to see. And 1 second. So as we know, we're in 1 second. Let me just make it bigger. Sorry about that. So our national debt right now is 31 point. Here, let me write this. 31 and $31.3 trillion. So that's how much we owe. We issue bonds to foreign countries like China, Japan, the UK, OPEC, Luxembourg, Brazil, Canada, Switzerland, Belgium. We issue bonds. That means we borrow money from these countries, foreign countries. As well as the Federal Reserve, we issue bonds to the Federal Reserve. That means we borrow money from the Federal Reserve. We owe them $8.3 trillion. This is our public debt. Our public debt, I don't want you to be confused. Our public, sorry, here, let me, public debt is foreign countries, and the biggest one, China, out of the foreign countries, and the Federal Reserve. This is public debt. Don't want you to be confused with intragovernmental accounts. Intragovernmental accounts is Social Security Trust Fund, Federal Disability Insurance, Medicare, blah, 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 Military Retirement Fund. All of this is internally. So we owe ourselves money internally. And it's so hard to believe. Like people be like, oh, how is this possible? How do we owe ourselves money here internally? Well, because a lot of the tax money, unfortunately, not all of this tax revenue goes straight to paying off treasury bonds. Some of it goes directly to these trust funds instead of going straight to pay off our bills like treasury bonds. And so that's why people say, hey, our system is rigged, instead of having all this tax revenue pay off debt directly that we owe to countries, foreign countries, also the Federal Reserve. No, you'll be surprised. Some of it, a portion of it goes straight to the Social Security Trust Fund, as well as other funds, Medicare, essential things, food stamp and stuff like that. So a portion of it just goes directly, and these trust funds accounts, they use that excess money to invest in treasury bonds. It's hard to believe, isn't that crazy? They use that money to buy treasury bonds, and then because they use that to invest in treasury bond, we end up owing more. And so then we end up in a scenario owing ourselves money, or debt, internal debt, not just external debt like the public debt. That's external. So that's external debt. I don't want you to be confused. That's why I kind of separated it with a line. So foreign countries, the biggest one, China, 1.1 trillion. Biggest one, sorry, Japan, but the second biggest one, China. Yeah, but interesting to see. Watch this. China. This is scary, and there's a lot of tension going on between China and the US right now. But I mean, think about it. If the only reason why China, let me explain this to you. Reason why China invest in treasury bonds, because here, because they want to keep their currency weaker than the dollar. And when they keep their currency weaker than the dollar, it helps them helps their export a lot more cheaper, you know. So exporting a lot more easier when their currency is weaker than the dollar, because then it costs them less. It's less costly, for them to export to here. So that's why they try to invest in treasury bonds just so they can keep their currency value lower than the dollar. That's why. So that's why they invest in treasury bonds to huh, keep export less costly or less expensive, right? So they want to keep it less expensive. That's why they keep their currency value weaker than the dollar. And how do they do it? They invest in treasury bonds. When you invest in somebody else currency in treasury bonds, you're keeping their currency valuable. So when countries buy treasury bonds, they're keeping the demand high in treasury bonds. That means they're keeping having the dollar maintain a high value, right? So that's how the dollar keeps its privilege in the world. When people invest in treasury bonds, the dollar maintains its value and it stays strong. So that's why it's keeping the dollar so strong because foreign countries keep investing in treasury bonds. Now China does it for its own incentive. China, they only do things for their own incentive. You know how they are, so they try to keep their export less costly. That's why they buy treasury bonds, right? But now with the Brexit going on and all of that, they say they choose no longer to trade with us or export their material, their goods to here to the U.S. Then they're gonna be thinking about dumping bonds, and then if they dump our bonds, then the value will diminish, and so then it's gonna have a knock-on effect on a lot of things like interest rates and stuff like that. Because when if China dumps its bonds, interest rates will skyrocket. You know, if China choose to sell bonds. Sorry, my handwriting sucks. Bonds, interest rates will skyrocket, right? Up. So if they, because as bond prices and interest yields have inverse relation. So when bond prices go down, the interest yield is gonna go up, right? So if they dump the bonds, the interest rate is gonna go up. So if they choose to do that, then the value of dollar is gonna diminish, bond price is gonna plummet. It's gonna cause chaos and a big catastrophe in the stock market. So yeah, so that's how much we owe. So now with the debt ceiling and all that coming up in July, if we don't generate enough tax revenue before June, say we get we come to a budget deficit, we don't have enough income to cover our debt. Now, usually what they used to do if we had that scenario, where we didn't generate enough tax revenue to cover debt, like treasury bonds and stuff like that, then government used to just issue more bonds. But now the problem is the debt ceiling, will not be raised. So that means if the debt ceiling cannot be raised, we cannot issue more bonds in order to be able to pay off the full debt. So, and another thing with the debt ceiling, it's not that we're not able to have the ability to issue more bonds, is that we cannot extend the deadline. So when the debt ceiling is up, that means we cannot extend the deadline anymore. We can so that ceiling, that ceiling cannot extend payment deadline, right? So when you have a debt ceiling, cannot extend the payment deadline. So then we're screwed. So then how are we going to be able to pay off all debt, or even issue bonds to inject more money for essential government spendings, like Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, disability insurance? How are we going to pay that if we're not able to pay off all debt? And now we got to cut spending because we don't have enough money to spend. That's because of the debt ceiling crisis. Sorry, here. Payment. Trying to do my best to write it. Extend payment deadline. Deadline. So now we know that when there's a debt ceiling crisis, we cannot extend payment deadline, and we cannot not issue any more bonds, right? Not issue more I'll say bond, yeah. More bonds to raise cash, right? So we can spend. We cannot do that anymore. So we cannot issue more bonds because of that ceiling. We haven't raised it up. Not raised. So people don't get confused. If it's not raised, that means we cannot raise cash by issuing bonds. See? So not raised. Sorry, eraser not raised. So if that thing is not raised, we cannot extend payment deadlines and we cannot issue more bonds. So that's very problematic. So we can't spend anymore. We have military spending. We have people that receive food stamp. We have social security, funds, military retirement, Medicare, Medi-Cal. We cannot spend anymore, no more longer. And we used to spend by issuing bonds, but now we cannot issue bonds. That means we cannot spend. So that means we gotta cut the government spending. And all that is because the debt ceiling crisis, which cannot be raised. And also, it's also problematic if it's not raised, because we used to also issue more bonds to pay off all debt, and then how are we going to be able to pay off China's debt? We owe China and Japan, OPEC, the oil producer countries like Saudi Arabia. They invest in our treasury bonds. I explained this in my previous video. If you guys watched it or pay attention to it, we had a deal a long time ago, in 1971. We gave them our weapons and all of that just so they can use the dollar as the only form of payment in purchasing oil. And whatever profit they make out of the oil sales, they use that profit, excess cash out of the oil sales they have made, to invest in treasury bonds. That was part of the deal, the Nixon deal. Whatever excess dollars they made out of the oil sales, every year they made excess surplus cash in oil sales. They had to use that portion to buy treasury bonds. That way the dollar gets even stronger. So, but now when we're defaulting, we can't even pay that debt. Then our credit rating is gonna go down. So if we cannot pay it off, right? If that not paid, or we default, then what's gonna happen? Our credit rating, right? Credit Shit, I wish I can. Credit rating goes down. Sorry, my handwriting sucks, right? Yeah, it's so hard to annotate. So I'm trying to find a better way to credit, and it takes a lot of time to write because I gotta make sure. credit rating, right? Yeah. Our credit rating will go down. So will go down. So yeah, so our credit rating is gonna go down, and this is bad, for the nation. Imagine if our credit rating is gonna go down, who's gonna invest anymore in the U.S.? Nobody will be coming here anymore to invest. Nobody's gonna be buying bonds like they used to. Our interest rates is gonna skyrocket. What happens, think about it. If interest rates skyrocket just because people are not investing anymore in treasury bonds, they're not buying treasury bonds anymore. We're trying to issue them money so we can borrow, but they don't want to buy it anymore. Then that's going to skyrocket interest rate because now it's risky. The dollar's risky right now, right? Nobody wants to be investing in treasury bonds. That means our dollar is risky. What's that going to happen? It's going to have a knock-on effect on mortgages, credit cards here. Borrowing costs going to be much more expensive. Higher borrowing cost. Everything is going to be expensive. Buying a home is going to be expensive. It's going to be harder to borrow. Much harder to borrow. Banks gonna cut down on lending. They're not gonna lend borrowers anymore. They don't want to lend consumers. Consumers cannot grow anymore. They can't expand because now banks cannot lend out money. They're not gonna offer them loans. There's gonna be more regulations, stricter, tougher rules, restrictions on consumers to borrow money from banks. Why is that? Because the interest just went up. And why did the interest just went up? Because the dollar lost value. Because nobody wants to be investing in treasury bonds. After that deadline in July, nobody will be investing in treasury bonds anymore, which then will skyrocket interest rate. And when interest rates go up and skyrocket, what's that gonna do? That's gonna affect our mortgages here, our credit cards. It's gonna be hard to borrow, like I said. Consumer won't be able to expand, or bank won't be able to extend lines of credit to consumers. I want to open a business, I cannot do that now just because there's more regulation. Why? Because interest rates skyrocketing. They don't have available credit to give out to consumers anymore. They don't have enough capital reserve, banks. That's going to affect the banks. That's going to affect consumers here internally. We're up to this whole market's going to plunge. If the bond market gets affected, that's it. We're done. We're done as a nation. The only privilege we have left now is that we having foreign countries invest in our treasury bonds. This is the only privilege we have here as American. This is the only reason why we were able to maintain this American standard. Our standard of living, we were able to maintain it until now because we had foreign countries everywhere investing in our treasury bonds. Outside investors, banks from outside, foreign countries from outside investing in treasury bonds. This is the only reason why we were able to maintain our standard of living as American, the dollar. That was our only privilege left. We have this no more longer. That's it. We're done as a nation. Well, we can't afford to buy food anymore. We don't have the dollar anymore as a privilege. That's it. We don't produce any good. We don't produce anything here. We don't produce anything in the U.S. We don't export, a lot of things because the dollar is so expensive. We don't produce things. We're not self-efficient. We rely on China. We rely on China. China controls us. They control us, and we need to start being more We gotta start being more self-efficient the way we live. We gotta produce goods. We can't just rely on the dollar and foreign investors investing in treasury bonds, so we can just keep this as an only privilege to maintain our standard of living. No, we can improve. We can produce goods here. We can find better ways to export. You know, we need to start being more self-efficient. We can't just rely on one factor, to maintain a strong dollar value. We gotta do a lot of things. So anyways, guys, I hope this makes sense. I know it's a long video. I try to make it shorter, but I'm sorry, there's a lot of stuff to cover. So sorry, guys. But anyways, I really hope you watch all my video. Take screenshots with your phone. Trust me, this is gonna be beneficial for you in the long run. You're gonna look back at this, look at your screenshot, you say, "Oh, I'm glad I took a screenshot of all of this," because that's actually true, and that's what's gonna happen to us as a nation, sadly. Sadly speaking, yeah. This is very important. I'm glad I explained this concept, and that's just for my viewers and new subscribers. Um, I just want to warn you, like this is pretty serious. Like, not a whole lot of people are talking about it. People wait on the media to mention it. They don't talk unless the media is mentioning it. So don't wait on the media to be mentioning this, right? Because as soon as we get to it, July, then you're gonna start hearing a lot of murmur about it. "Oh, yeah, no, don't wait up. Just start looking into it from now. July, August is coming really soon. So summer is almost here. Now it's April. Summer is getting closer. We're gonna have a major recession by the summer. By the way, this is gonna create layoffs, less spendings. All of this is correlated. All of this is somehow connected. But anyways, thank you for my new subscribers. Thank you for my viewers. If you watch this video, I know it's a long video. Thank you so much. Please subscribe to my channel. A lot of interesting videos, but also a lot of private videos that are educational. Only if you subscribe to my channel, you'll be able to access and know when I post videos. Please subscribe and give me your take on it. Leave a comment. Give me your take on it. But try to leave a nice comment, and I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day. Thank you so much.